So I've wanted to do a video for a while about recommended Canon lenses, especially good value Canon lenses, because if anybody's got $5,000, there's plenty of good lenses out there for you. But what if you don't have $5,000? And as I was putting that together, I realized that I'd really be spending a lot of time talking about prime lenses. And so I thought, just let's put that in its own video, and then I'll talk about zooms, non-prime lenses, in a subsequent video that will come very soon. So what is a prime lens? Well, a prime lens is a fixed focal length lens. Right here in my hand I have the 50-1.4. So it is a fixed focal length lens at 50 millimeters. There's no zooming to a greater millimeter or getting wider to a smaller millimeter. It's fixed. And you think, well, that might be really inconvenient. What if I need to get closer to my subject, if I need to zoom in on them? Or what if I can't capture everything in the scene and I need to zoom out and make it wider? Well, what they say is you zoom with your feet. Now I realize that's not always practical. Maybe you're at the zoo and there's an animal behind the bars. You're not going to be able to get any closer without getting your leg bitten off. Or if there's a mountain in the distance and it's just too narrow, you're not going to spend an hour walking backwards until you can get the whole scene in view. But that's alright, because they do a very good job at their focal length, so much so that many people find that inconvenience of zooming with your feet perfectly acceptable. The construction is much simpler because there's less moving parts in here. You'll only have the focus mechanism moving, and as a result they're cheaper and the quality is often excellent. You can spend just a couple $100s on a prime lens, and in the realm of decent recommended lenses, a couple $100 really is as low as I can ever go. A couple $100 will get you sharpness at some apertures that rivals $1,000 lenses. Let me say that again. For a couple $100, you can get sharpness that rivals $1,000 lenses. It's important. So let's talk a little bit about some of the lenses that work really well for a Canon crop sensor camera, and we're going to keep that in mind. Remember, a crop sensor camera is like the T4i or the T5i. That is a smaller than full frame sensor, and so there's a little bit of a crop factor when you're figuring out focal length, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. So Canon has a pile of prime lenses, just a ton. Arguably the most famous probably is the 50-1.8. It's also called the Nifty 50 or the Plastic Fantastic. It's Plastic Fantastic because its construction is all plastic, even the mount. Now, as I said, I'm holding in my hand the 50-1.4, which is a slightly more expensive, better build quality. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a second. But the 50-1.8, for about $100, I think right now it's running about $110. And just so you know, lenses do not depreciate in value nearly as much as as camera bodies. I bought the 50-1.8 back in 2005 for $75. It's now selling for about $110 new, used for about $195, depending on somewhere in that range. So, as I said, it's plastic, it's cheaply built, but you're paying $110, and if you stop down just a little bit from that maximum aperture of f1.8, you get some really nice sharpness, and for $100, that's an excellent value. But because you're using it on a crop sensor, and it does work on a full frame as well, but because you're using it on a crop sensor, they have to multiply that 50 times 1.6, and you get 80 millimeters. So 80 millimeters can be a little narrow for some use cases, especially if you're trying to photograph somebody indoors. You can quickly find yourself backing up against the wall and running out of room. So the 50 can be a little tight for some situations, but you do get that wonderful maximum aperture of f1.8. That lets in a ton of low light, really helps in low light situations. More recently, we have the option now of the 40 f2.8. This is the newer Canon STM lens. That's the silent stepper motor technology. It's not truly silent. Build quality is much better. Sharpness is much better. I find the focal length to be more versatile, but you are giving up over a stop of light because its maximum aperture is only f2.8. It is tiny though. I do have it right here. Let's take off the rear lens cap. It's tiny, and I love putting this on a camera because it suddenly makes a DSLR, which is not so portable, that much more portable. And if you're shooting with a SL1 or the T5i, T4i, it's great. I even love putting it on my 5D Mark III because then it does fit in a bag more easily than when I have a big old lens on it. And that 40 runs about $150. So you pay a little bit more, sharper, better build quality, more versatile focal length because you're a little bit wider, and but you lose over a stop of light. Now, most of you are walking around right now with a kit lens or some other type of lens that zooms. A really easy way to figure out whether these focal lengths are going to work for you is to simply get your kit lens and rotate it to 50 or about 40. You can kind of judge on there. And you could even tape it with a little bit of gaffer's tape and stick it at that focal length and then walk around for a day. Does that focal length work for you? For what you're shooting, for the places that you're going. And if you find the 50 is just fine, because the 50 on the kit lens, when you rotate it to that point, is going to be identical to the 50 here, the prime 50. The only difference is their widest maximum apertures and their sharpness at those levels. So that's a great way to tell. Now, what if you want to go a little bit wider? Sigma makes a really nice 30 f1.4. Now we're really starting to get very fast aperture. Fast aperture means that the number, how wide that aperture can go. Fast is another way to describe that. The 30 f1.4 is starting to get expensive, almost $500. You say, wait a second, we just jumped from 100 and 150 to almost 500. There really isn't much else that I like to recommend in that general area. Canon offers a 28, 35. Neither of those are very exciting. They're not great lenses. They're good, but they're not great, and they're several $100s, so they too jump up. They're just as kind of a gap or a gulf in that area, and the Sigma 30 is very nice. Wide open at f1.4, it's a little funny around the edges, but stop down just a little bit from that and you have a very, very nice lens. There is the very new Sigma 35, which is excellent and does work very well, but that is getting quite expensive. It's one of the sharpest lenses out there right now for crop sensor cameras. So 50, 40, or 30. A lot of people ask me what should I choose, and I should also mention, as I did, that there is the 50-1.4 from Canon as well, a nicer quality lens, really nice actually, and very good value. It comes in around $300, a little bit above $300 I think usually, although sometimes there are deals for a little bit cheaper. You know, a lot of people ask me, should I get the 50-1.8 or the 50-1.4? If you're getting paid to shoot, the 50-1.4 is going to pay for itself pretty quickly. If you're not getting paid to shoot, if you're really just kind of testing out how much you like primes, the 50-1.8 is an excellent value and a really good place to start. Then people say, well, should I get the 50 or the 40? And now it kind of comes down to, do you value that really nice low light capabilities with the f1.8, or do you want better build quality, a little bit better sharpness, and a tiny form factor for the 40? And then if you're really willing to get a little bit more versatile and pay a little bit more, you can get the Sigma 30. So I hope that gave you some general ideas of which lens is best for you. If your answer is still not clear, you can leave a comment down below, or even better, come over and find me on Facebook. Just leave a message over there and I respond to those first, usually. Some YouTube comments are starting to slip by as I'm getting more and more and more of those. But I'm happy to try to help you figure out which is best for you. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. That helps other people find it as well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.